I ended up falling in love with a girl who became a world-famous cult leader and ended up a mummified corpse wrapped in Christmas lights. It's crazy. It's a wild story. I've been telling them on Reddit. They couldn't believe they found the mother's long-lost hidden will in these beings who claimed that they were from another galaxy or another dimension, who had joined our chat, was able to help this person in their time of need. And instead he took advantage of her sexually. But to give me this ultimatum, this was the first time I had seen her make the decision to choose darkness, deceit, lies, and betrayal, rather than choose the light, honesty, and truth. Hey everybody, it's been a while. Been meaning to make a video so you could catch up and I could continue telling some of my stories. This one I decided to tell by video and give you some insight into the Mother God cult that went world famous. I ended up falling in love with a girl who became a world famous cult leader and ended up a mummified corpse wrapped in Christmas lights. Believe it. It's crazy. It's a wild story. And I've been telling them on Reddit, on /cults. You can find it on that subreddit. I've told a couple stories. This one I'm going to get into is about a story that I call the Quantums. What happened was, after a few weeks, once I started getting settled in to this group of people I have joined on a spiritual journey, once I got settled in, all of a sudden in the chat room that we were in every night, 4 or 5, 6 of these beings, if you will, or people, showed up in the chat with silly names like Pinky, Funny, Bluey, all at the same time. And they were all beginning, continuing, and finishing each other's sentences in a way that was clearly as if they had, planned it or knew what the other was going to say. Just like I'm speaking sentences to you right now. One of them would speak the first couple words, the next one would speak the next couple words, and the next one would speak the last few words. So it was fascinating to see. None of us in the chat room had ever seen this before. And these beings actually had one person come in saying, "Oh my God, I can't find my mother's will. We're going to lose everything. My mom passed away. The house is going to be foreclosed upon. We don't know what to do." And these, quote, beings in the chat told her, "Oh, your mother hid it under the floorboards. Go upstairs into her bedroom, check under the mat, under the floorboards, and you'll find a case there. And inside that case is the hidden will that your mom had." Well, sure enough, this person comes back into chat room like 20 minutes later, freaking out, so excited because they couldn't believe they found the mother's long-lost hidden will in these beings who claimed that they were from another galaxy or another dimension, who had joined our chat, was able to help this person in their time of need. They repeated this kind of thing that seemed impossible a couple times with other people in chat. And I remember Amy, who's known as Mother God, who is the leader of this world-famous cult, had gone into several of her meditation sessions to, meditate on this and speak to her guides or her angels that she believed she had and find out what was going on. And she would always come back and say, "Yeah, my guides, Cryon, Saint Germain, my angels, they say this is all real. This is legit. This is happening." Well, little by little, these beings who showed up in our chat began to take control over what we did on a daily basis. We were running a website at the time, and we were, sharing articles focused on spirituality and growth, love, unity, becoming the best person that you can be every day. And these beings began to take control, saying that we needed to create a special room for healing, that we needed to talk about this or that. and they selected one of our group members to be the group healer. Now, at the time, I was dating a lover to Mother God, if you will. She had told me I was going to be Father God, something that, I really tried hard the first few weeks to let go and follow her guidance, thinking she knew better, but it didn't take long for me to figure out that something was up and it wasn't right. Nevertheless, we started following these beings and what they were telling us. And, I remember them saying that she had to go into healing sessions every night with this other member. And, she would drink every night and get extremely intoxicated. And she went into these healing sessions with him privately late at night after she was plastered. Other team members were going to sleep. I would be trying to go to sleep in the other room, and one night I remember hearing moaning coming from the other room, and I thought to myself, well, that doesn't sound right. I mean, how would you feel if your girl, your lover, your woman, was moaning from another room, plastered, and another guy is in there with her who have a feeling that he's a little bit jealous and he's got a thing for her, but at the same time, he's a nice guy. You don't know how to feel, but she's moaning. So I would sneak out, in the dead of night. I'd be trying to move closer to the door without anybody hearing me, seeing if I could pick up on anything. And, she'd be moaning and I didn't hear anything. I didn't know what to do. And I would just kind of like, okay, stop myself and go back to bed. Try to fall asleep and approach her the next day and ask her what was going on. And she would look at me in my face and tell me, this is just your ego, your jealousy. You need to let go of it. There's nothing going on at all. This is your mind just spiraling out of control. You need to defeat this. You need to meditate on it. And, I would go and talk to these beings who were in our chat and say, look, this is what I'm seeing, hearing. This is what I'm feeling. I don't really understand it. I'm being told, this is just my jealousy. Maybe she's right. And I spend hours and hours every day meditating, trying to make this go away, and it just wouldn't. There was nothing I could do, and these beings would tell me that, I need to get over myself, and I was a little bit surprised that they were a little bit less understanding than, I thought they were going to be. They were supposed to be these, ascended beings, perfect, if you will, like, ascended and spiritually adept. And the responses they had were felt more like attacks, almost like from Mother God herself, like a defensive nature. When I approached her, she would get really defensive about it and really projected me like there was something wrong with me. I couldn't make sense of it. And I spent weeks trying to meditate myself out of it, trying to snap out of this feeling of jealousy that I had. Night after night, I would hear her moaning in there, and I didn't know what was going on, and it was just really strange to me, and I just felt very isolated. I felt jealous. I felt small. I didn't want to come across as jealous, but it was strange. And these beings in our chat were so incredible with the things they were doing. We had hundreds of people coming into our chat room every night just to see them and talk to them. And converse back and forth with them. They seemed so enlightened, and they were able to tell people, where to go find your mother's will. It just seemed all so impossible. It brought so many people around. Amy's guidance was, fully into whatever these beings were telling her, and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right, and it was like nobody else wanted it to be wrong. And here I am thinking like I'm trying to dissolve my feelings of jealousy and they just won't go away, but I know what I'm hearing. And it was strange. And I remember one night I was cleaning up and I'm looking at this member who does the healing. He always sat in the corner on his laptop, was great with computers. If you had something wrong, he was the guy to go to. And I remember he was sitting in the corner and I saw, and I'll never forget, I wasn't tripping or on drugs or anything. There was this blue mass, just like this, like a blob, floating over his shoulder as he was typing on his laptop. And I remember something he had said to me about the color of one of her guides before, true or not. I said to him, hey, what color did you say Cryon was again when he showed himself? One of Mother God's guides, his name is Cryon. He said, he's a floating blue blob. I said, oh, well, he's over your shoulder right now looking at whatever you're doing online. And he snapped his laptop down so fast and shot up. It shocked me. I couldn't believe. I thought it was like a really strange, crazy experience to see something like that. I've never seen anything like that before in my life, where a blue blob of energy or light or color just floating in the air. And it was strange how defensive he got when he slammed his computer down. Well, I remember a couple days later, when I went to open my computer up, my screen flashed. And it was in a strange way. At this point, I started to have these feelings of doubt. Like, what's really going on here with these beings in chat, with him being the healer, or supposedly being the healer, and her moaning at night all the time when she's in these healing sessions as they were called, guided by these beings to be there. These beings who were guiding him more and more into our relationship, almost like a triangle, where it wasn't me and her anymore. Now this other person was involved with me and her more, almost like a third wheel, if you will, in our relationship. Like they were injecting him into our relationship as they were guiding her on how to perform, behave, and lead the team. It was all very strange. And as my screen flashed that day, I don't know what it was, but something just snapped in my mind. And as my screen flashed, I realized that a week ago, or a week prior, I had an issue with my laptop and I handed it to this person to fix it for me. And I realized that in fixing it, he must have put some kind of program on my laptop that enabled him to be able to log into my computer and watch whatever I was doing while I was doing it. I don't know where the feeling came from, but it was there and I couldn't deny it. And suddenly it all started to come together and it all started to make sense. I started to set these little traps, if you will, where I behaved in a different manner towards these beings in chat. And I started to challenge them a little bit and ask them more questions about where they were from, what they were doing here, why they were sent. And as I was challenging them, I was also watching this other person who had become the healer, become the third wheel of our relationship. I was watching him in his body language as I was challenging these beings in chat. And I noticed that as they were responding to me, he was always looking down at his laptop and typing. And things started to become a little bit more clear to me. And I started to realize that something very nefarious was going on and that something was up. And every time that I would challenge these beings, I could see him shifting in his chair. At one point, these beings started to get a little bit defensive. And it was strange because they were supposed to be enlightened, right? But here they are getting defensive and almost angry. And again, every time that they're typing to me, I can see that his head down and he's typing as well. And he's one of our buddies pretending like this isn't him. And all of a sudden I realized this whole thing is KG. This whole thing has been one person in our room sitting in the corner using programs to make it look like he's 5 or 6 different people in our chat at the same time. Okay? Pretending like they know things about us, pretending, using his knowledge or inner knowledge of the team against us in ways that made it seem like these beings from a faraway land somehow had incredible and important or incredible and relevant knowledge that was impossible for anybody else to have, when really it was just somebody sitting in the corner the whole time. And he felt lonely, and I felt bad for him. He felt jealous of me, and he wanted to be involved more. So he convinced Amy or Mother God that these were ascended beings that showed up in chat when he was just using a program that would make it seem like 5 or 6 people were talking all at the same time. And then it dawned on me that all these people that he helped, like the lady who found her mother's will and it saved her family, was somebody who had never shown up to chat before, wasn't one of our regulars. And after that moment, never came back to chat again. And for the 3 or 4 other people that something amazing and impossible like this happened for, again, they were also people we'd never seen before. And they had never come back to chat after that happened. And I realized, it dawned on me that the whole time we were being played. We were being played by somebody on our team who just, for whatever reason, was jealous of me and my relationship with Mother God. Somebody who wanted to have more to do with what was going on in our team. He wanted to have a larger role. And he had a thing for Mother God. The whole time I realized she was trying to get me, when I confronted her about this stuff, she was trying to get me to dissolve my own intuition. This was somebody I looked up to, claiming to be the mother of all of creation, to be perfect, egoless, right? To care deeply. At least I thought about everybody. But here I am, the closest person to her. And she's telling me that I'm out of my mind, I'm crazy, there's nothing going on in these rooms, these late night healing sessions, and that it's my own ego and I need to go and dissolve it. Meanwhile, she had me trying to dissolve my own intuition. And just in that moment, I felt this rush of strength, of power, of clarity come into me. And I realized at that point, I was never letting it go. I realized the value of truth at that point, surrounded by a delusion, and that something needed to change in this group because it was headed down a really dark path. And somebody needed to bring some sense to what was happening in this group, because sooner or later things were going to get worse. And fast forward 10 years later, and she had become a mummified corpse wrapped in Christmas lights. Things got worse. Backtrack to 8 years prior when I'm still there, and once I realized this, I confronted her again. This time I put it all together for her. I said this was KG the whole time. The quantums aren't real. Your guides who said that the quantums were real and we should follow them, your guides aren't real either, because obviously they're telling you that the quantum beings are real. But meanwhile, it was just KG in the corner. So your guides aren't real either. This is all fake. You need to face this. You need to snap out of it. You're brilliant. You're an amazing person. But what's happening here isn't real. And what you had me doing, trying to dissolve my intuition and telling me that nothing was going on while you were in these healing sessions with KG, was a lie. And I need you to admit it right now. And sure enough, she admitted it. She said, "I'm sorry, Andrew, but the truth is, KG would come into these healing sessions, and whether this is the truth or not, this is the truth of what you told me." She said he would come into these healing sessions, and then he would shake as if Father God or some energy was being downloaded into his body, and he would change his personality. Like he would, hello, dear. KG is gone, but now Father God is here. And I'm going to help you with your spiritual energy and get rid of all of that negative energy. And in doing so, we're going to use sexual orgasms and structure for how we're going to clear you of all this negative energy. I need to make you have orgasms in order for you to clear the negative energy blockages in your body. And she told me that he would pretend to become Father God, essentially. And that she would, of course, being Mother God, she would let him do whatever he wanted to her. So this sick, excuse me, I'm not going to cuss, this sick person pretended, actually shook, went as far as to act and claim as if some being was becoming him, and he was becoming some being. He was Father God now, and now it was going to literally take sexual advantage of somebody who was drunk and plastered out of their mind, knowing that all they wanted in the world was for somebody to be Father God to their Mother God, right? To confirm that she really was Mother God, to confirm her doubts that she had when she drank. And instead, he took advantage of her sexually and molested her the whole time. And it was sickening to figure this all out. On one hand, for me, it was like a coming of age. I felt so powerful that I was able to put this together. It wasn't my own jealousy that the whole time I was right about her cheating on me, if you will, or having sexual relations with this man in their late night healing sessions. I was right the whole time. She had me trying to dissolve what, for better or worse, was my own intuition, which I was right about. So I had this outpouring or inpouring of strength and clarity and truth coming into me, and I felt like a new person. And at the same time, I was absolutely devastated that one of my boys, somebody I was tight with, would do this and take advantage of the whole team like this. And I brought it up to Amy, Mother God. I brought it up to Michael as well. It was KG, who is the member that was doing this. Yeah, I'm naming names because this is all true. You can sue me if you like, but there were a ton of people there who I brought this all out to, and the truth had been admitted, so it is what it is. Nevertheless, I brought it up, and she went and talked to KG outside alone and told him he had to leave the house at this point. Okay, this had been going on for months with these fake beings in the chat. It wasn't until all of this that I had uncovered this that it stopped. I was given the ultimatum to either keep my mouth shut and not tell a single soul or any of the people that followed us online, or to pack my bags and leave. I had those two choices. And for me, it wasn't a choice at all. There was absolutely no way that I was going to sell out after all that I've been through. There was no way I was going to allow you to take something that was supposed to be beautiful, spiritual growth, truth, being the best version of ourselves. There was absolutely no way I was going to take all of this crazy, deceitful, deceptive crap and just sweep it under the rug for all of our members. It wasn't going to happen. The whole team was standing around looking at me like, what are you going to do? Because I was given this ultimatum in front of the whole team. There's about 8 of us that are standing there. I remember looking at them all and smiling, looking at Amy and Michael and smiling, like thinking to myself, like, there's not a chance in hell that I'm not going to tell everybody the truth about this. Your guides aren't real. We're doing great work, but you don't need to be Mother God to do it. So I walked over to the computer. I typed the whole thing out. I pressed send. Our followers were shocked. They couldn't believe what they heard. Lots of them left and never came back. It was always a revolving door of people, because once they figured out that this was all a bunch of crap, they usually left and never came back anyway. So it was always new members. But I wasn't kicked off the team, and at this point I realized that this girl was in some serious trouble, and that if I wasn't going to help Mother God snap out of it, that literally nobody else here had the balls to do it. And this was somebody that I had cared about. I mean, this was my lover, somebody I slept with every single night next to on a bed. I mean, I cared very much about her. But she became 2 different people, one during the day and another when she was drunk. But to give me this ultimatum, this was the first time I had seen her make the decision to choose darkness, deceit, lies, and betrayal rather than choose the light, honesty, and truth. And it was difficult for me to even comprehend how she could make that choice. But she made it. And that was the beginning of the end for me, seeing the potential for her to make this choice, to choose darkness, to choose deceit, to choose lies over the truth, and to lead people astray for the sake of her own benefit, so that people wouldn't see that her own guides had misled her, that her own guides weren't real. I don't know what it was about her that made her feel like she couldn't be somebody special without being God. But I wasn't going to let myself fall down or go down the wrong road and follow her down it. There was no way. I wasn't kicked out of the house. I wasn't made to leave. Our relationship really only got tighter after that. After that, I realized I was somebody that really, if it wasn't me, nobody else was going to look out for this girl. When I left a team months later, and this is another story I'll tell at another time, I didn't mean to take almost a half hour, but when I left the team months later, she actually left the team behind a couple weeks after I left and followed me across the country to stay with me. Because I think a part of her realized that there was only one person around there that truly cared about the person inside. Not this title of a being, of a mother god, or somebody leading every humanity to a golden age or a golden era of peace and wholeness and balance. But I cared about the person, the flawed person who is deep inside. And I think she saw that, and I think that's what she wanted. And I did everything in my power to help her snap out of it. But in the end, she didn't want to change. But nevertheless, that's the story of these quantum beings who came into the chat, took over everything, and then turned out and manipulated her, sexually manipulated her, and turned out to be just some loser in the corner that knew how to manipulate some programs on the computer and manipulated hundreds, thousands of people and the whole team itself, just so he could get his rocks off at night with a girl that he had his eyes on. How sick and twisted that person must have been. I felt so bad for him. I had so much pity. I've never heard from him since. But that's the story of the Quantums. I've still got the transcripts because I saved them. I had the foresight 10 years ago to save them. And it's a shame 10 years later almost how deeply this group of people who came together with good intentions had inevitably spiraled out of control and became a world-famous cult. And how this girl that I loved inevitably became a mummified corpse wrapped in Christmas lights, left in a bedroom as a shrine, with children in the house, not taken to the doctor when she was sick, not reported to the police when she passed, but they made a shrine out of her, wrapped her in Christmas lights, and put incense and fragrances around her so they would hide the smell of a decaying body. How sick is that? Man, I've got so many stories from inside this house and inside this group of people who turned into one of the sickest cults I've ever heard of. It's a shame, but that is the truth. 100% all the way. If you've watched this far, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. I didn't anticipate coming and telling this story tonight, but something told me to just get on here and make this video. And I should say Merry Christmas because it is Christmas Day. I had a great day, spent it with my family. And I don't know what it is, but something said, hey, come and tell this story. People will enjoy it. It gives great insight into what happened, and really it began a changing of the guard inside the house. Uh, and that was the first time that I had seen her choose darkness, choose deceit, betrayal, and lies. Because I hadn't seen that before from her. Not 8 years ago. It was hard to fathom back then. Everything that's been on HBO and everything that you've seen on the documentaries has been newer stuff the last few years. But back 8, 9, 10 years ago, it was hard to see her fall so far down. Although at the same time, I should say, I can't say I didn't see it coming. Again, thank you for sharing this time with me. If you have any questions, feel free to respond. Leave comments in chat in the comments section. I'm going to post this where I can. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Peace.